we acknowledge and we give thanks for the privilege of living on Nôepe, the land of indigenous peoples, the Wampanoags. The goal of the Martha's Vineyard Diversity Education Committee is to support island schools to assure that every child gets the education they deserve in an environment that allows them to feel safe and valued. Acknowledging, honoring, and supporting the diversified peoples on this island is a means to that end, and we have chosen to begin with the first people of this island, the Wampanoags. We have developed this slide presentation to lay the basis for requesting that the island school committees assist us by implementing the following goals. Goal number 1, to include acknowledgement of this indigenous land on a regular basis in morning announcements or morning meetings in all of our island schools. Goal number 2, to take Columbus Day off of all school calendars. Goal number 3, to celebrate Indigenous Peoples' Day and add it to all of the school calendars. And goal number 4, to incorporate Native American Heritage Month activities into all of our island schools. The Wampanoag Nation, also known as People of the First Light, has inhabited present-day Massachusetts and eastern Rhode Island for more than 12,000 years. Its original territory covered nearly half of the state of Massachusetts. The Aquinnah Wampanoag tribe and the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe are federally recognized. 4 other Wampanoag tribes are recognized by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. They are the Chappaquiddick Wampanoag, the Herring Pond Wampanoag, the Assawamsett Namasket Band of Wampanoags, and the Pocasset Wampanoag tribe. Most Native peoples' culture and beliefs are deeply connected to their land and environment. Land acknowledgements are a simple and powerful way to show respect for the original inhabitants of the land where you are currently standing. This is a meaningful step toward honoring the truth, making the invisible visible, and correcting the American stories that have erased indigenous peoples' tribal history and culture. Land acknowledgements are powerful statements that offer recognition and respect for the land and the people who were already here. But they only become meaningful when coupled with authentic relationships and informed action. Land acknowledgements are a first step in repairing relationships with Native communities and with the land. Some may ask, why remove Columbus Day from the calendar? Christopher Columbus is a polarizing historical figure whose life has been defined for many by his astonishing intelligence, courage, and fortitude. Nevertheless, such impressive traits should never blur the fact that he oversaw a murderous quest for material riches that resulted in the intentional demise of a people. Each year as Columbus Day comes and goes, a question is raised. Why are we celebrating his life? It has been 500 years since Christopher Columbus so-called discovered the New World, kicking off centuries of exploration and colonization through the subjugation of the original peoples of the Americas. As historians continue to dig into his life, controversy has arisen over continuing to honor the invader tyrant as a hero. Since Italy would not fund Columbus's colonial expedition, he was sailing on behalf of the Spanish monarchy. Columbus never set foot on that part of Turtle Island that is now the United States. When he first arrived in the Caribbean in 1492, he encountered the Taino people, a gentle, trusting, and generous people who had no weapons. Columbus wrote this in his journal about the Tainos, quote, "They willingly traded everything they owned. They do not bear arms and do not know them, for I showed them a sword. They took it by the edge and cut themselves out of ignorance. They have no iron. They would make fine servants. With 50 men, we could subjugate them all and make them do whatever we want." Columbus captured and sent thousands of peaceful Taino Indians to Spain to be sold into slavery. He called them Indians because he thought he was in India. Many Tainos died en route, and those left behind were forced to search for gold in mines and work on plantations. Columbus's brutal and tyrannical offenses were so egregious that Spain sent a royal emissary to arrest him. Columbus returned to Spain in chains, where he was tried for crimes against humanity. The doctrine of discovery, foundational elements of which can be found in papal decrees dating back to the 1100s, established a spiritual, political, and legal justification for the colonization and seizure of land not inhabited by Christians. Pope Alexander VI issued a new doctrine of discovery in 1493 to legitimize Columbus's claims on land and waterways he allegedly discovered outside of Europe, and to promote Christian domination and superiority on those lands, and to justify the obliteration of indigenous humans all over the earth. From the early 1800s through the 21st century, the United States Supreme Court has repeatedly used the doctrine of discovery to extend the jurisdiction of the federal government over Indians, thus impacting their sovereignty, their land ownership, even their fishing rights. The Indian Removal Act in 1830 allowed federal troops to legally and forcibly remove approximately 100,000 indigenous people from their land. Some 15,000 died during a journey west that is known as the Trail of Tears. The Trail of Tears is the direct result of the doctrine of discovery and the legacy of Christopher Columbus. These actions were a deliberate move to eliminate an entire race of people, genocide. At the essence of the doctrine of discovery are laws that invalidate or ignore the rights, sovereignty, and humanity of indigenous peoples in the United States and around the world. There were more than 350 government-funded and often church-run Indian boarding schools across the U.S. in the 19th and 20th centuries. Native children were removed from their homes, families, and communities and taken to schools far away. There they were banned from acting in any way that might be seen to represent traditional or cultural practices, and many experienced treatment that in many cases constituted torture. Some students from the Wampanoag tribes on Nôepe and in Mashpee attended these boarding schools. It wasn't until the American Indian Religious Act was passed in 1978 that Native Americans were given the right to exercise their traditional religions and the freedom to worship through ceremonials and traditional rites. In the picture on the left, taken in 1882, the handsome young Dene Hastine Totahali is wearing traditional clothing with his long hair draping past his shoulders. 3 years later, his Western-style education nearly complete, the Carlisle boarding school photographed Hastine, whom they had renamed Tom Torlino. His sleek black hair is short and parted, he is wearing a suit and tie, and his skin tone appears to be several shades lighter than in the first photograph, as though his education actually had turned him into a white Christian. The pictures were often used in conjunction with the school's assimilation-based motto, "Kill the Indian, save the man." Our third goal is to celebrate Indigenous Peoples' Day and to add it to all the school calendars. We are pleased to note that the Oak Bluff School and the Martha's Vineyard Regional High School already acknowledge Indigenous Peoples' Day on their calendars. Indigenous Peoples' Day is about more than a name change. It's a refusal to allow the genocide of millions of indigenous peoples to be erased from history, and it's a demand for recognition of Indigenous humanity. Redbud Resource Group, a Native advocacy organization, defines erasure this way, quote, when an entire people's history, culture, knowledge, and sometimes existence is ignored or left out of education, decision-making processes, and other situations within their community, they become erased. The group reports that 2 out of 3 Native people feel erased from their school or community. Nanauwe Vanderhoop, Aquinnah Wampanoag, upon introducing herself to her off-island high school classmates as a Wampanoag, was met with, "I thought natives were extinct." There are so many ways to celebrate Indigenous Peoples' Day. Learn about the significance of Cranberry Day, which is held the second Tuesday in October. Attend a powwow the weekend after Labor Day and witness the celebration of Wampanoag culture. Learn about the Black Brook Singers and what the drum and drumming represent in Wampanoag culture. Add Indigenous Peoples' Day to your calendar, October 10, 2022. Goal number 4, to incorporate Native American Heritage Month activities into all of our island schools. The month of November presents an opportunity to learn about the proud history of Indigenous peoples in America, and especially the first people of Nôepe. As we celebrate traditions, languages, and stories of Native people, we are sure that these rich histories and contributions live on with each passing generation. And now we come to the story about Thanksgiving, which for many Americans is a beloved and favorite family tradition. This image of Ferris's 1912 illustration, The First Thanksgiving, 1621, captures the idealized view of English colonists and the Wampanoags celebrating a harvest feast in friendship. Many of us were taught about this in school. However, upon further observation, maybe we notice some other messages in this painting. The Martha's Vineyard Diversity Coalition believes we must acknowledge that for many Native Americans, Thanksgiving is a very painful holiday. It is a reminder of the genocide of millions of Native people, countless broken treaties, the theft of Native lands, and the relentless assault on Native culture. This famous image perpetuates the myth that the first people and the colonists existed together in friendly, honest, but not equal relationships, and that the Pilgrims were saving the Native people. We believe that this painting and other messaging like it should be discussed. The National Day of Mourning is an annual demonstration. It is deliberately held on the 4th Thursday in November and aims to educate the public about Native Americans in the United States, notably the Wampanoag and the other tribes of the eastern United States. It aims to dispel myths surrounding the Thanksgiving story we have been taught, and to raise awareness of the historical and ongoing struggles facing Native American tribes. Our island teachers are creative, inquisitive, and committed. Given resources such as the Aquinnah Cultural Center, the Martha's Vineyard Museum, and the National Indian Education Association website, we hope our schools will support our teachers in seeking out the many ways to celebrate Native American Heritage Month in our schools. An essence of the culture of Native peoples is storytelling. Done orally or in design, it is a way of perpetuating the history of a people. This wampum belt, created as part of the commemoration of the 400th anniversary of the Mayflower Voyage, was designed and produced in 2020 by members of the Wampanoag Nation. It tells the story of Metacom, also known as King Philip. He was a leader of a confederation of indigenous peoples that included the Wampanoag. After touring at venues across England, the exhibition showcasing this belt, called Wampum, Stories from the Shells of Native America, made its North American debut at our own Martha's Vineyard Museum on April 8, 2022. The belt is a work in progress, and when completed, will measure 9 feet in length. We are so fortunate to live on this wonderful island and be able to every day celebrate and honor the original peoples of Nôepe, the Wampanoags. We truly believe that meeting these 4 simple yet tangible goals will lay the groundwork to support all of our children and to build our community as a whole. Our intention is to deliberately work on systems that raise each other up. The goal of the Martha's Vineyard Diversity Coalition is to lay the groundwork to eradicate racism. The specific objective of the Education Committee is to support island schools to assure that every child gets the education they deserve in an environment that allows them to feel safe and valued by acknowledging, honoring, and supporting the diversified peoples on this island. What better place to start than with the Wampanoags, the original peoples of Nôepe? We thank you for this opportunity.